Kahali. Welcome to what promises to be a very interesting session. And of course, as you're well aware, we're now into budget phase. And I'm delighted to be joined by Akshat Khetan. And let me tell you a little bit about him. Akshat is a renowned corporate legal advisor with decades of experience in corporate debt restructuring and insolvency under his belt. He brings to the table a unique fusion of experience driven business acumen and an unconventional approach to empower clients to conclusively address their problems. The operational tenet is fortified by firm belief in value creation. We all like that, enabling him to facilitate turnarounds. This sounds interesting, like a novel almost, whenever and wherever possible. Akshat firmly believes that any presented challenge rather can be approached with multiple perspectives and strategies. This 360-degree thought process allows Akshat to keep insights that help clients implement managerial, operational, strategic, and organizational reforms to realize the targeted results, what further strengthens Akshat's standing in the legal ecosystem is the fact that he does not subscribe to any particular narrative in regard to India's economy. This is wonderful. So we're coming in here completely neutral with an open mind to learn to ask questions to figure out what's going on. He believes that economic policy should be inclusive, encouraging, and enabling in nature instead of being prohibitive or regressive in order to truly allow enterprise to accelerate their growth. Profit and income, he insists, are variables that drive the generation of meaningful value for all members of society. Akshat, thank you so much for finding the time to do this
Good
prior to
evening,
the budget.
Advaita. I should thank all your viewers, subscribers to join us today for this live.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that we are going to get lots of questions. I want to just tell our viewers that Akshat will be taking questions as well. I have a few for him. So once I'm done with my questions, if you ask interesting questions and relevant questions, I will ask them of him. So please keep your questions coming. And already there are questions coming in, Akshat. So, and specific questions. But I'm just going to start with one very broad based question, and that is why should we care about the budget? And by we, I mean the middle class. And I mean, all of us who are pretty much joining this discussion right now, very often we find very little that gets exciting for us.
Advaita, in very simple terms, budget means where your money should actually go instead of later wondering where it has actually gone. So, in simple terms, every moment, every second, every minute, every hour, and every day, we all are budgeting. And the union budget is a transcription of what we budget. It is a document which the union government presents every year before the citizens, mentioning about its income and expenditure statement and also presenting the estimates, and coupled with lot of schemes, lot of policies, lot of roadmap, what it wishes to take forward in the coming year. Now, as an ordinary citizen, I understand on a lighter note, ordinary citizen today in Hindi is Aam Aadmi, and many of us would not subscribe to it. And let us go with the literal meaning of ordinary citizen. From our toothpick to the sleeping pill, everything is impacted directly and indirectly with and how the union budget flows. Tomorrow we'll have the economic survey tabled before the parliament, and on 1st Feb, the presentation of the union budget. The union budget also is a transformative and transmutative document which will be a vibrant constructive force capable of elevating the whole aspect of citizens into a new realm of knowledge, growth, enlightenment, and prosperity. Hence, for every Indian citizen, whether we like it or we don't like it, whether we are inclined or not inclined, we all are directly impacted, affected, and enhanced by the budget. Hence, we all should be interested in budget. We are a youth economy today. and it is very important we know what is going on for us and how
Absolutely.
we are going to be led.
Absolutely. I think so. Akshat, I mean, on a personal level, do you keep an eye out for the budget every year? And how long have you been following it this closely?
So, for more than over 17 years, I have been
Hmm.
closely following the union budget.
Okay. Interesting. At some point, I'm going to come back to you about the history. Then 17 years is a long time of
Yeah.
budgets that really struck you and you felt were truly transformative. I think that's such an
Today, I
important
can only
piece.
say that from a conventional budget, we are
Mm-hmm.
all in an era of a consequential budget. That is one of a major change which we have all seen over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And let me also tell you, just to add an educative flavor to our viewers, that budget is derived from the French word bougette,
Hmm.
which means a small pouch or a leather bag. And that is why our present FM calls it a bahi kata now. And instead of a traditional leather suitcase, she comes with a traditional bahi khata, which has roots in the Indian history and mythology.
Hmm. And the halwa also, which everybody
Yeah,
talks
yeah,
about.
yeah. The halwa ceremony has always been there,
Uh-huh.
and it embarks the official start of drafting of the budget document.
Hmm. 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 Akshat, when the Aam Aadmi or the Aam Mahila thinks of the budget, we think of it in terms of, oh God, taxes, taxes, taxes. GST will go up on this. It'll come down in this. Cars will get more expensive. Air conditioners will get more expensive. Phones will get more expensive. How should we, so when we are looking at the budget and we are looking at predictions, we're looking at, महंगा क्या होगा, कम महंगा क्या होगा. So how do you deal with this? This perspective and take
Advita,
the
I
macro
will just
picture.
like to tell you that fine is a tax of doing wrong, and tax is a fine of doing right. So nobody likes to pay taxes, but everybody has to pay tax. We are in a system of economy where production and consumption are two determinants of the economy, and when there has to be public expenditure, when there has to be facility, when there has to be growth development, there has to be prosperity, there has to be infrastructure, tax forms the basis of major revenue of the government,
Hmm.
and hence tax is an important component which will always be there in the economy.
Hmm.
However, yes, what arises and what gives thought from your query to me is rationalization of those taxes, reduction
Yes.
of those taxes, and ratification of taxes which are not at equilibrium level. Today,
Hmm.
if we see with the inducement and implementation of goods and services tax, one of the biggest reforms the government has given to the country, a 14-year long drawn battle, was finally implemented on 1st of July 2017. And you see the amount it has contributed to nation building.
Hmm.
A large part of our capital outlay and a large disparity which existed between the production and consumption function is today addressed by GST, and any new reform takes its own time to settle. Now, coming specifically to your query, whereby yes, the middle class or the Mahila always thinks that tax is a burden. Tax is a burden because there is no rationalization. And if there is rationalization, that is not expanded horizontally amongst the lowest class or individual of this country.
Hmm.
For that, the government needs to take significant steps in tax rationalization and reduction, instead of having sub layers, instead of having subclasses, and instead of having different types of strata within the tax system.
Hmm. Can you explain this for us? This point that you've made.
So
It's
I
very interesting.
here and I here want to highlight on the slabs in the personal income tax, on the slabs in the corporate taxes, and also in the capital gains tax. Today, what
Hmm.
has happened, if you see, if you invest, people are investing in asset rich classes, that is in your gold or in real estate or in buying something which is ancillary of nature, having a fixed material value. Why this is happening? This is happening to evade taxes. If taxes are rationalized, such evasion will not take place, and on the contrary, there will be a balance between expenditure and investment. So taxes will be there, but there will be expenditure linked investment taxes. Now, this may appear to be a new jargon, but
Hmm.
slowly and steadily, it will be a need of the present economy.
Hmm. Hmm. Right. And when we were speaking prior to the show, when we spoke yesterday, you said something very interesting because again, from the common man's perspective, we look at our bumpy roads, our potholes, say if you live in Bangalore, which they're very dangerous, and you say, where is my tax money going? And you said the rationalization has to be that every rupee you pay in tax is put back into infrastructure and into civic facilities that the ordinary citizen can enjoy and avail of. How can we do that so that we become more committed to this?
If you see, what happens is the government spending is largely dominated by the states also. When the capital outlay or capital expenditure is done by the central government or the union government, the implementation of such capital outlay is moreover in the hands of states. Now, why this problem of bumpy roads or sticky roads coming up is because there is disparity in that capital expenditure at the state level. So,
Hmm.
for that, the present union government needs to expedite those projects which are near completion by infusing more capital so that the generation happens fast. The minute that generation happens and rebounds into the economic cycle, automatically the fiscal deficit will get narrowed down, which we all are a biggest victim of.
Hmm. 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 I was curious to also ask you about this thing that very often it comes up. Like for example, Subramaniam Swami says it often that there should be no tax, like we should have no income tax. Do you think that'll ever happen for India? Will we reach a point
What
where there's
Mr.
no
Swami
income
says,
tax?
I would
Hmm.
not like to comment on that, but I would
Sure.
like to say one thing, that
Hmm.
in Indian politics, you cannot profess love for the needy by keeping them poor always. So, yes, as I said in my opening line, that we need rationalization of taxes. Prohibition or abolition is not
Hmm.
what we can look at today. The government needs to rationalize the tax structure, it needs to reduce the tax structure, it needs to tweak the double taxation formula in the personal tax, what it had brought in last year, and give a more simplified tax regime to the citizens of the country is, yes, what I support. But abolishing income tax or
Hmm.
inducing expenditure linked taxation is not what I will support, because that will disbalance the fundamentals of our economy today. But we don't know. This government is all of surprises.
Yeah.
So you and I don't know that on 1st Feb we hear that the income tax is abolished, although it's highly unlikely.
I hope so. आपके
Yeah.
मुंह में घी शक्कर, really. But like Vignesh, one of our viewers, has pointed out, just 4% of Indians file income tax returns and only 1% pay taxes.
Yes. And
That's
out of that
crazy.
1%, 0.3% are the highest contributors in the income tax.
So how is this fair? How is this a fair system? Is like
No,
what
so
we
it is
all.
not about the system is fair, but there is no
Hmm.
balance as expected on parity of democracy.
Hmm.
It's an economic yardstick. We look everything from the prism of census and democracy, which doesn't function that way. So
Hmm.
that is why we always say and we should emphasize on rationalization of personal taxes.
Hmm. In the post-COVID world, Akshat, there is an increasing looking at India to become part of this supply chain. The days of China being the factory of the world are frankly numbered. And a lot of countries, especially in the West, America, for example, are looking at India to become that, to fill that gap in the supply chain. How can SOPs help make us a manufacturing powerhouse? What do you think the budget needs to promise to MSMEs and smaller manufacturers as well, apart from big corporates, to ensure that we
Advita,
become? Yes.
COVID has indeed dismantled the entire supply chain when it was in full force. China, being the powerhouse or the power hub of entire manufacturing, could not even cater to the domestic consumption. And we should
Hmm.
all appreciate, realize, and give a pat on our back that during those vulnerable and unprecedented, uncertain circumstances, we supplied vaccines through our supply chain to the entire world.
That's true.
Yeah. Also, when you talk about US, from 1951, US has been our partner in all forms of trade fair. Yes, we always had a love-hate relationship on various sectors with the US government, but US has always been a trusted friend of India. And today, the demographic location of India, enhanced capability capacity, the steps taken by the government in the union budgets of last 9 years, whereby they had the PLI schemes, PM Gati Shakti, PM Kisan Yojana, direct cash transfer benefit, created an urge in the citizens to perform, to rise and to develop their own capacities and capabilities, create
Hmm.
infrastructure, which has now prompted into a mushrooming effect whereby the world is looking that here is a country opening up with opportunities, full of talent, young and
Hmm.
dynamic individuals and citizens with open arms to give various requirements and cater to various requisites what they want from an investment perspective. Also, if we see a large amount of summits that the government of states have organized. Now the upcoming UP summit is coming, or we had the vibrant Gujarat, magnetic Maharashtra. All states have something or the other, have indeed created a buzz. And that
Hmm.
buzz, coupled with single window delivery mechanism schemes, helping farm to farmer and farmer to farm to the market, all these have led to be India as the most trusted and empowering investment destination. So
Hmm.
today we have Apple with us, we have Tesla with us, and I don't know how many more to come. But
We
yes, you
already
are
made, yeah.
absolutely right. India will be the most trusted destination. Now coming
Hmm.
on to the SOPs, when we speak about the Swachh Bharat mission, it
Hmm.
looks very common to people that it is about cleaning the road or cleaning the your house or keeping your vicinity clean, but it
Hmm.
also entangles a concept of waste management amongst the manufacturing sector, and it has given birth to so many new and innovative modules of waste management. When we talk about SOPs and we talk about the principles of just in time, the concept of delivering on time, and also of having checks and balances at every stage, has empowered Indian companies to perform better. Today, if you go over the globe, I should not be naming or I am not promoting a specific Indian company, but Tata's and Mahindras in autos are one of the best trusted brands at par with the best car selling companies in the world.
Hmm.
So SOPs play a significant role, and from time to time, not only via the union budget, also by virtue of several ordinances, by virtue of several bills, our government has been proactive in getting these SOPs in place, which has
Hmm.
empowered the citizens of this country and made India a more attractive investment destination.
Hmm. Lots of questions coming in, one
Yeah.
after the other. So I think I'm putting some of them up on the screen. Some I'm starting to ask them later. Once I'm done with my questions. So I promise my viewers I'm going to go through my questions very quickly. I just have three more. Akshat, the agrarian sector is saturated, but it remains a critical employer. How can we bring reforms in the sector and diversify employment opportunities so that we're not that dependent on it, since it has kind of maxed out in many ways.
Advita, we have always been an agrarian economy. Now,
Hmm.
the unfortunate part is that 50% of our population is directly or indirectly dependent on agriculture, but agriculture today is contributing only to 20% of our GDP. This is because, not about saturation, this is because a particular cycle of our journey to be developed as an agrarian economy is over. And what we need to actually do now is to support and ancillarise this economy by creating farm gate infrastructures. There are so many perishable produce, but we
Hmm.
lack in cold storage farms. Also, one of a natural consequence is climate change. The earlier pattern of Rabi and Kharif, what was prevailing, is today changed. It is
Hmm.
now climate change is not in our control. So we need proper agro research so that the demographic intervention is mapped by these researchers, and accordingly this economy is supported, because we have always been the largest agrarian economy in the world, and that needs to be further emphasized and uplifted now by providing these ancillary support systems to the present sector, which I know and I believe that the upcoming union budget will have a special impetus on to.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, so that's a prediction right there. You see that
Not a
coming.
prediction, but a requirement, because certain things which have to happen.
Hmm. Hmm. The other thing, Akshat, that we hear a lot about, and this I'm of course talking about in the media, and it captures our attention, definitely because it's considered so scandalous, and we feel cheated. I'm talking again as the ordinary person. Is these NPAs, and the frustration of the middle class. Like every time you have to, I just got a house loan last year, Akshat. I signed individually papers, a stack that was this thick. I'm not exaggerating. Every paper I had to sign. It took me an hour and a half to finish signing everything for a small house loan. And here people get crores and they take off. So, how can we go about getting some sort of resolution here? Because it really gets one angry.
So, Advaita, you have unfortunately and fortunately asked me three sub questions in your one question. So, let me break this up. On a lighter note, it is said that when you take a house loan, actually you mortgage your liver and kidney while signing those papers. Because everything and anything you write in that you sign without reading. So it is a very important for a borrower or for a person who is availing loan to know about his rights, his duties, his responsibilities, and the prevailing mechanism. Now, here I will always say that it is an attempt of desperation and an attempt of non education prevailing over reality. So, for that, self education, having credit counselors, having individual credit practitioners in the country can be a very vital concept which can help people get educated and save their mental health from such frustration. Coming to your second leg of question with regards to the MSMEs. Now we all know that 69% of our growth is MSME. They play a vital role. There are number of schemes for MSME. There are corporate credit guarantees. But yet this MSME sector is in deep problem. And one of the major reason why this problem is because of lack of proper capital infusion. The large biggies get over of a loan without any personal guarantee, without any corporate guarantee, just on the basis of their business and rating. But it is an MSME borrower who mortgages his house, his
Hmm.
jewelry, his personal guarantee, and the law is such that personal guarantees even extend to generations coming forward. So,
Wow.
for such MSMEs, it's high time that the government should come up with some stressed asset stabilization fund and special situation funds. I will also suggest and I also feel that the government should start MSME clinics. These MSME clinics should support these MSMEs which are in problem by guiding them and hand holding them. If one of the impetus that was there in the last union budget was MSME cluster development. That is, the government plans to develop MSME in a cluster, And that MSME then supports a large corporate and takes the business progression forward.
Hmm.
So, not much has been actually happening on the ground in those terms. More infrastructure, more credit offtake, and more availability of easy capital
Hmm.
should be available for these MSMEs. A large
Hmm.
corporate today, I'm not against any large corporates because they are the growth pivots, but a large
Sure.
corporates get a loan at say 6%, 7%, 8%. But it is an
Hmm.
MSME borrower who gets it at 14%, 16% with double the amount of mortgages because he does not have a rating. But
Hmm.
ultimately, they are the ones who are running the economy at a micro level and enabling the macro players to run the economy. Yes, there
Hmm.
has been large scale efforts and wholesale efforts done by the government in this regard, and we expect much will be done in the upcoming budget.
Hmm. On the train, I was traveling last week, and on the train, I met this young man from Bihar who was, done a fintech startup. And was coming from Bombay. So he took the train from Bombay to Delhi. And then from Delhi, he was going to his hometown in Bihar. And that's where I met him on that leg of the journey. And he told me that he had gone to Bombay to meet with some fund angel investors, not angel investors, but I think venture capitalists, because he said angel investor or smaller scale, as well as RBI and things like that. Because for a fintech app, he said I have to give a deposit. I don't know if I'm using the right term, but he said I have to give a deposit of 10 crores. So he says, where do I get 10 crores from? How can I even do anything? I don't have that money. And I felt so bad, and I said, I don't know what solution to offer you here, but what you're saying kind of reminded me of this young man who's just 24 years old. And luckily for him, he has a restaurant business in his town, so he's able to keep himself afloat. But his partner already has a regular job. He's the one who's working on it, giving more hours because he has his own small business. But he's right. How can he get, where will he get 10 crores from?
So, two
So.
sectors which have long-standing demand pending with the government is one on the employee ESOPs for startups, and second is this fintech startups. There are
Mm,
regulatory issues and restrictions on their registration as well as on their merchant payment devising. So these both needs to be liberalized because what happens for a startup also, they start up having a very limited percentage of salary or interest in commercial terms. What they have is the ESOPs. Now, actually, when they go to encash those ESOPs, the bigger problem is on encashment, the long term capital gain that they have to pay is
mm,
so difficult that to pay that long term capital gain on their earning, they have to actually borrow money either from their employer or from financial institutions. So these are few things which needs to be liberalized, which needs to be rationalized. And despite having so much done and getting uniform tax regime under the GST, well, GST today is the subject matter of a GST council, and the union
mhm,
budget has not much role to play in it. But we need to rationalize the entire direct tax system. Otherwise, the growth that we want to achieve in India at 100 will be achievable, but with lot of hurdles. We see a
mm,
5 trillion economy, we see a 25 trillion economy, or we absolutely want an Atmanirbhar Bharat. Will all be achieved once there is reduction in fiscal deficit and increase in rationalization of taxes at all
mm.
levels, be it personal or corporate.
Yeah. And we are
So,
also
through
seeing.
your medium, I would urge that still first Feb has 2 days, and our learned FM can incorporate something to rationalize taxes for the fintech startups because this is a huge looming issue.
Yes, yes, yes. He seemed to suggest to me that this was the big fintech players kind of muscling in and trying to keep this little guys out. That was his reading of the situation, but I
I
don't know
agree,
enough
but
about
that is
this
a
sector.
myopic view, Advaita, because there is always going to be operation and suppression. Now, we cannot
Yeah.
keep on crying foul on the operation and suppression. We have to progress and move forward. And for that,
Hmm.
we have to demand so that we get the supply. That's it.
Hmm. Yeah, Harsha has an interesting comment. He's saying we are cultivating same paddy for last 40 years, Andhra. We should change crops frequently, but without government support, it cannot be done as we need we need agriculture marketing facilities and services. True.
Correct. What he's saying is what we have already spoken upon is agro research, agri marketing institutes, having unified platforms for selling these agricultural produce. The wheat ban on export, the export ban on wheat has hugely impacted us. So we have to
Mm,
open up as we have enough of produce. We have young gentlemen like Harsha who are into these paddy growing, but unfortunately are paying the heat in wake of
mm,
inavailability and non-availability of proper marketing facilities.
mm, mm. But somehow again, I'm no economist. I think that's quite obvious to everyone here. But when I look at what's happening around the world, what's happening in the
I don't
US, when
agree
I
that, Advita.
no, so I've managed to fool you for the last 30 minutes. That's good. Although I know you're being kind, you're much too smart to not know exactly where I'm
No, no,
at
no,
in terms
not,
of my
not, not,
knowledge
not that.
level. But I look at when you look at when you watch British news channels and all, they're all talking about cost of living crisis, cost of living crisis. They repeat it over and over again. We are everyone thought that we'd be a disaster post COVID, but our economy has been quite stable. We're not in that kind of crisis like we're seeing in the West right now, where recession is coming. I've been hearing in the US, for example, that the recession is coming for the last like 18 months. And housing, houses, like the real estate market dropped by 20%, and maybe even more now. 20% was when I checked a couple of months ago. So we're not in that space. We're doing okay. We just
We are
overtook
doing
England.
okay because of many factors, primarily being that every Indian, be that or how he or she may be, has an imbibed Indian management thoughts and practices prevailing under them. So the basic fundamental strata of always saving, investment, being conservative, being conventional, being always thinking on the consequence has helped us over the steps taken by the government. Yes, we should thank our government for timely initiating steps which may be
Hmm.
seen, unseen, or maybe not seen by the critics.
Hmm.
That is for them own to judge for not letting and putting us in this soup. Also,
Yeah.
if we see, being an emerging economy, we always had an open economy. If you see and look at our neighbor, you are going to US, but I'm saying look at our neighbor. I don't want to even name.
Oh,
They
yes.
are
Yeah.
facing a huge crisis because they always imported
Can you
for
tell us a little
everything.
bit about that, Akshat? It's a little off topic, I know, but what is happening in Pakistan? Because it's like it's imploding. They're bankrupt. They don't have many lenders anymore. What is going on there?
See, there, if you project yourself a democracy and you are having an autocratic approach or a
Hmm.
military regime who dominates you, over a period of time, it will be unsustainable. We have seen that historical from the time of Hitler and even before that. Now, what is happening? They never opened up their economy and they were only dependent on imports at the mercy of people who funded them. So, where you don't produce, you cannot survive. If you go there and if you see cars are imported, food is imported, clothes are imported, all the stuff of basic living are imported, either from the Middle East or Far East or the Central Europe, Asia. So
Hmm.
no economy can survive. In India, we always talked about reliant India, resilient India, self-standing India, and there was always a balance between
Hmm.
imports, export, and maintaining the foreign reserve. Obviously, we
Hmm.
can't compare ourselves to whom about we are talking, but they are in huge shit and crisis and waiting for adoption by some father of theirs who have funded them in the past.
It's horrible, and I mean it's the economic thing is on one side, and then today they had a terrible terrorist attack by the TTP, which is their own homegrown terror outfit, and it's just it's terrible. I mean, I think when many people say Pakistan is a failed state, these are the reasons why they say it. But coming back on topic or on syllabus, and thank you for indulging me with that little diversion. But here are some questions. Vignesh wants to know from you, any change? Do you anticipate any change in the deductions under Section 80C, middle class
Yes, there will
taxpayers?
be. I do anticipate a change in ATC, and
Hmm.
I feel that it will be the exemption limit will definitely be increased.
Okay, okay. Uh, they were saying that he expects a loyalty bonus for honest taxpayers, but political parties expect loyalty to the party. Do you think there'll be a loyalty bonus?
Let us all rise for loyalty above commercial element. Yeah, let loyalty be restricted to eternal satisfaction, so that we don't have hopes which will not be achievable in the upcoming budget.
Okay. And of course, Mehul is asking, with GST and ability to make policy decisions later on, is the budget as a single event still relevant or that big a deal? Good question.
That's the biggest mistake that we make, is we feel that but if there is a budget, there is nothing beyond the budget. If you see, the PM, the finance minister got the PM Gati Shakti in the last budget. Entire of the year, the implementation of PM Gati Shakti took place. So budget is one of the event where in literal terms the government presents you with its income and expenditure statement, gives you estimates for the coming year, along with certain key policy decisions, schemes, and roadmap which it wishes to take on. But coming specifically to GST, we have a separate GST council which meets from time to time and decides on incentivizing implementation of GST from the categories from where it was. If we see over the years, GST on certain commodities, which was 24%, is today 18%, is today 12%. So it is a transitional indirect tax code, however uniform, and hence it will take some time. But budget is not the only event for any particular activity to take place. Yes, it is a start of the income and expenditure estimate of the union government.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, what is your view on agri tax? Is this helpful for people?
Agri tax, unfortunately or fortunately, we are an agrarian economy, so there is no direct tax on it from the income from agriculture. But if such taxes got in, it may have effects on the populism which the government also wants to create, being an election year. This will be the first full-fledged budget, last
Yeah.
full-fledged budget after the 9 years of completion of presentation of annual budget and the upcoming general elections. So I don't see any taxes coming on agriculture.
Okay, the questions are not stopping, Akshat, so you can tell me when you
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
stop. But Vinay wants to know, do you think 3D printing will have a major effect on manufacturing and encourage all countries to indigenous manufacturing?
3D printing, camouflaging, having digital intervention in manufacturing are all aspects which are part of our Digital India mission, and it will definitely have good and relevant impact on the coming years, and specifically in the manufacturing sector. Also, if you see today, with digitization, a lot of manufacturing has also become easy, because the control system which is required to control the chain of production in manufacturing is all controlled and contained at multiple levels.
Hmm. Vinay wants to know, what is the difference between the conventional budget and the other type of budget you mentioned?
Vinay is my Vinay has followed me well. Conventional budget was the budget where you had a rail budget, where you had a finance bill, where you had a finance budget, where there used to be income expenditure statement, and after that array of subsidies, freebies, etc., etc. But today the government is conscious of the consequence of such subsidies and freebies. That is why, if you see, populist is not associated with winning elections anymore.
Hmm.
Populist is associated with that sentiment of a citizen which will help him outperform and grow, which is a result of what they announce in the budget. Hence, I call it a consequential budget and not a conventional budget.
Got it. Got it. Okay, Karthik wants to know you. What are your thoughts on waivers?
Waivers in terms of taxing, taxations, yes, the government at time to time come up with amnesty schemes because they realize that the cost of dispute resolution or dispute carrying is much higher if it is resolved in time. So waivers are always going to be there, and these waivers are, although appearing to be unhealthy, sometimes ensures in ease of resolution. So let us look at from the point of view of resolution and not waivers.
Okay. Vignesh wants to know, since it's a pre-election budget, can we expect any drastic announcements aimed to appease the middle class?
We also have an interim budget next year. And in my
Hmm.
opinion, the finance minister is going to walk a very tight rope this year, balancing between fiscal deficit and capital expenditure. So we should not expect it as an election budget, but yes, it will be definitely be a populist budget.
Okay. Akshay is asking, according to you, which sectors should the government focus on to dilute the effect of COVID, as COVID has hit several sectors of the economy?
Government has given a huge impetus to healthcare because the way we live, the way we think, and the way we behave has all changed after COVID. So, having this question in mind, integration of modern medicine with the Ayush Ministry and having a mix of both will definitely give impetus to healthcare sector. And one sector which the government should focus is healthcare after COVID. Also, mind me saying that COVID was also a biological war. So the defense expenditure is also definitely going to increase this year after the Russia Ukraine, after the uncertainty of geopolitical situation across our neighboring countries. Our government is definitely going to have a very huge and plump defense expenditure in the budget.
I'm so glad you said it so clearly that COVID was bio warfare, because no, it was almost like you were a conspiracy theorist if you said it, but now increasingly like credible people are actually saying it, and it's amazing to me. But that's another tangent I'm going on, Akshat, that China got away with it. But anyway, I hope they pay some price. Uh, Krishna Murthy is asking, any relief for crypto holders from brutal 30% tax on profit? What can we expect from the Modi government? I don't
No
know anything about.
relief.
No relief.
No relief.
Okay. Okay. Anything more you want to add, or just no?
No for now, but yes, any country has the biggest strength is its currency. Now,
Hmm.
this government will, of what we have been hearing all around by the RBI governor and from the union ministries of finance and expenditure and economic affairs, I don't see the government getting liberal on cryptos.
Okay. Okay. All right. And SSS wants to know, how about SCZs along the coastline for manufacturing hub? I think he just stopped at H, but I think he may have meant hub.
There are SEZs along the coastlines. Now, those coastlines, SEZs along the coastlines having manufacturing facilities will definitely reduce the logistical cost, which the government is already doing. If you see Nava Sheva, JNPT, if you see the development of Digi Port, if you see Haldia, if you see Kumbhakoran, everywhere, all around, this is already happening. So, yes, it will be definitely boosted in routine course.
Okay. And my final question, also anything anything expected regarding CBDC? They're not stopping, Akshat, but I'm going to make this the second last question, and then I'll ask you a last question. So anything that you're expecting regarding CBDC?
Not really.
Not really. Okay. And my final question to you is any predictions that you have to make for the budget? What do you
Making
expect to see?
predictions in an unpredictable government is the toughest task. Just maybe opening an astrological environment for your viewers to me. But let's keep our fist tight and hope that we have the best budget, which gives a
Hmm.
proper direction to our citizens. And definitely, yes, the main worry of the ordinary citizens or the literal Aam Admi, taxes are rationalized.
Let's hope taxes are rationalized, and that's my biggest learning from this. Because you're right, we do feel middle class, especially I identify as middle class, and we definitely feel the pinch and wonder very often, especially when you hear of corruption and things like that. Which I have to add is much less now in this government than we've ever had it. In fact, you don't hear of the scams that you did earlier, so that's a good thing. But still, you feel that where are my taxes going? So rationalization of taxation is a huge learning for
Again,
me.
on a lighter note, we have to be conscious that scams are now not hidden from cams.
Hmm. Yeah, true. On that sobering note, or should I say optimistic note, I want to thank you, Akshat, so much for joining us. And I hope you'll come back to the channel because, I mean, the questions, didn't stop right through. They started coming in like 10 minutes or 7 minutes, I would say, into the show. And it just goes to
I
show.
would only say thank you for bearing me, Advaita.
Not at all. I
And
think
I
I've
hope
learned
I
so
have
much.
imbibed some economics in you being more of an economist.
Yeah, now I can fake it at least for the next few days till some other scandal takes over my attention. But yeah, but at least now I know rationalization of taxes is the way forward for us to have a meaningful relationship with this budget and not just say, अब ये mobile phone महंगा हो गया अब ये ये tax का. The other thing is also capital gains tax. I hope like they will rationalize that as well
They
because
will definitely. That is a
yeah.
long pending demand.
Yes, I think that's really important that they do that. But other than that, I think we're going to wait and see. I'm definitely going to watch the budget this time, far more informed than I have been in previous years, and that's thanks to you, Akshat. And do stay in
Thank
touch with
you.
us.
Thank you.
We'd
Of
love.
course, thank you to all your viewers, subscribers, and you too.
I hope you enjoyed the questions.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, everybody, don't forget to like this discussion. It's been so helpful and a lot of people can benefit from it. So please be sure to like it so it reaches more people. And we will be back soon with another conversation like we do always. And thank you for watching. And thank you, Abhirup, for your comments. Very, very insightful and informative. I said this to Akshat the first time I spoke to him was that he's very instructive in the way he speaks. So that's his style. So you get to learn a lot and ask a lot of relevant questions and get answers. So that's a
You are
really nice
actually
style he
flattering
has.
me.
No, it's the truth. I told you this that day also when we
Yeah,
spoke
yeah,
that
yeah. Yes.
instructive tone, which makes, and that's why we got so many questions. So thank you again. And everybody,
Thank
see you
you.
soon. Bye. Bye.